Welcome into Nebraska Shootaround. Anna Bellinghausen and Drake Keeler alongside with you to talk Nebraska women's basketball. Guys, before we get started, some important business to take care of. It's pro time. The Omaha Supernovas hit the court the first time ever for the Pro Volleyball Federation. They get a matchup against the Atlanta Vibe January 24th at the CHI Health Center. First serve is 7 p.m., so you can get your tickets already. Supernovas.com. It's just like 2 weeks away, and it's pretty exciting stuff. World-class talent with the Supernovas, and they get to play Atlanta Vibe, which I think will be one of the biggest rivals in the league, here to kick everything off. And the Supernovas roster, honestly, is full of stars. You got NCAA champions, you got All-Americans, there's even Olympians on this team, so it's going to be pretty amazing to see. And what better place to do it than Nebraska, of course, the state of volleyball. But today we're not talking volleyball. We are going to talk some more women's basketball. Drake, I think this Nebraska team's off to a pretty good start, but saw a little bump in the road against number 14 Indiana, and then a little bit closer of a loss or a win, to Wisconsin 69-57. Let's talk about that Wisconsin road win first, though. Alexis Markowski, Natalie Potts just playing well.
Yeah, I mean, they won that game kind of ugly. They were never really in danger, but Wisconsin made some pushes, especially in the second half. First half, they kind of just extended. It was like a 5-point lead, 10-point lead at halftime. And then they couldn't really, break free and run away with the game. Wisconsin really made a push back. Alexis Markowski had 13 points. I think she had 11 points in the first half and had like 2 after halftime. Credit to Sarah Williams and Wisconsin for that. But I think on the road, it's a Big Ten win. You'll take that. Wisconsin is probably, bottom 4, bottom 5 team in the conference, but they can play. They went and beat Illinois on the road in their next game. I think that was really impressive. They got some good players. Sarah Williams, like I mentioned, she's one of the best post players in the conference for sure. So, I mean, that's a win you're happy to get. Did a lot of things well. Really impressive. And in a number of ways, even though there's a lot, they want to improve on.
Yeah, absolutely. Then you look at the loss to Indiana. Not a surprise necessarily that they lose that matchup, but PBA was rocking for that game. It was a sold-out almost crowd, and you retire a jersey and Jordan Hooper. That means so much to this program. So there was a lot of excitement in the building, I believe, but a 91-69 loss, maybe a little bit of a surprising margin there for Nebraska. But what was the sentiment post-game?
Yeah, it's not a loss you like to take. It was, they felt they got out-toughed and, really could have played better. I would say kind of the same. Sydney Parrish for Indiana, just a great player, been shooting lights out recently. I think she's 81% from 3 in the last 2 games, and that is just ridiculous. She started 4 for 4, 5 for 5, and Indiana is just a really good team. 5 really good starters, and, Nebraska just couldn't keep up. Alexis Markowski was fantastic, went right at Mackenzie Holmes from the jump, scored 20-plus points, 6 rebounds. Just had a really good game, but got in foul trouble, and that limited, Nebraska probably loses anyway, but that really limited her impact and her ability to keep it close, and, you didn't get enough production out of the guards. Jazz Shelley's kind of struggled in the games that Nebraska has lost, Darian White as well, and that was a problem, and, Indiana is a really good team. They're top 14, but, that top 15 in women's basketball is it is really hard to move right now because there's a lot of good teams, and they're, Indiana might be top 10 by the end of the year.
Yeah, Drake, you mentioned the starters maybe having a little bit of struggles there with White and Shelley, but the bench production, I think, was there the past 2 matchups, 26 bench points against Wisconsin and then 28 against Indiana. How important is that down the stretch?
Yeah, it has really been great to see, just how deep this Nebraska team is. Just pretty much any player off the bench can come in and make a play, get a bucket, anything like that. Jess Petrie, the freshman, will have a game where she'll just score 4 or 6 straight points, and that's been really big when she has done that. Logan Nisley, the other freshman as well, has been fantastic. I think she scored 13 points in that game. A really good game for her. She can shoot the ball really well. And the rest of the bench is playing well. Callan Hake, everyone else. So that is a really key thing, really good thing you'd like to see, that when, maybe Jazz Shelley or Alexis Markowski is having an off game, that these players off the bench can step up to production a little bit. And it's it feels like it's going to be rare that Nebraska's offense is just like completely shut down or anything like that.
Yeah, two big matchups, of course, Big Ten play. All of them matter. All of them count. Huskers play Illinois at home at PBA tomorrow, 7 p.m. Illinois comes in 6-7, and then haven't won a Big Ten game, so they're 0-3 there. But how would you preview that Illinois matchup of what to expect?
Yeah, it is interesting because Illinois feel like probably been maybe the most disappointing team so far in Big Ten play in this season. They've had a lot of close losses, but they were in the tournament a year ago under first year coach and haven't really been able to build on that despite pretty much the same roster, pretty much the same contributors. But they're dangerous, Genesis Bryant, Kira Cook. They've got players, Kendall Bostic for sure. So they're a team that it's not a guarantee for Nebraska nowhere close for sure. I think Illinois came into PBA and beat them last year. And then Nebraska got them back on the road. But this is a team that is still dangerous, should still be viewed as such despite their record. So that's a game I'm really interested to see tomorrow.
And then at Minnesota Sunday, that's a 2 p.m. tip-off. Again, not easy to win conference games on the road. What are you looking at in that one?
Yeah, and on the flip side, Minnesota might be the biggest surprise in a positive way when you look at Big Ten play. They just beat Michigan on the road yesterday, and they've been really fantastic. Start out Big Ten play, I believe they lost to Maryland and they've lost to UConn. All their losses are to good teams. They only have 2 or 3, and that is a really interesting matchup. Don Plitzwhite's got them playing well. That is Matty Kroll's old coach at South Dakota. So that is a lot of ties there. I'm really looking forward to that one. Minnesota's been fantastic. And if Nebraska can get a road win there, that would be great. I think I definitely remember that game last season. They played at Minnesota, a worse Minnesota team, one that finished near the bottom of the conference. But that was a shootout that Minnesota won kind of last second. So Nebraska will look to get that back, get a win there, and that would be massive for sure.
Yeah, the Huskers right now 11-4 and then 3-1 in conference play. Drake, would you say this is where you thought this Nebraska team would be at this point?
I think it's probably about that. I thought they'd maybe pick up another win in non-conference play, maybe have probably a worse start to conference play. So I think it evens out in that. But, it's not too far out of expectations in either direction. I think that this team's on a good track right now in terms of trying to get back to the NCAA tournament. Obviously, got to keep playing well. You want to see them obviously take care of business tomorrow. And if they can win Sunday as well, that'd be great for the team getting the 5-1 in conference play. So it's really interesting to see how this season develops. A lot of great teams in the Big Ten, a lot of teams getting better, and they've started well and they've held their own against most teams. So that's been really impressive.
Well, Drake, it's all about those resume builders to get to March Madness. Thank you so much for joining us. And this has been the Nebraska Shootaround.